Good morning, welcome to a morning review. This is Kim Watson speaking for Ezeetrader. So looking at the euro-dollar first, and yesterday, well, somehow we managed to end up on a positive day there, but we are in quite a chop zone in terms of there's not any new high or lows put in there in the short term, so we're sort of at the mercy of seeing whether we're going to actually break from something. We are finding a little bit of support on the 4-hourly 8 at the moment, but how this looks realistically, if it was to break down through the daily pivot, which it's closing in on, if it was to break through that, and this trend line I've drawn on here may be looking bearish back towards the S1 sort of level, maybe even yesterday's lows or the prior day lows there. It's certainly got plenty of range to do so, but at the moment holding up there, looking, as I say, choppy. It's through the Asian session we managed to hit Friday's highs, and it's reacted off that quite viciously, effectively in the end. And looking, as I say, looking to me like, well, it's going to just be a range-bound market until we see something sorted out with Greece. I think we're expected to hear some more news tomorrow, but any sort of news in between then and now will probably give some volatility to the euro. Okay, so not much else to say there. Let's just check on the news front for the euro today. Nothing of significance this morning. There's a European Court of Justice ruling it's due out to announce a ruling regarding the constitutional of the ECB's outright monetary transactions policy. So there is a meeting at some, I say a meeting, but there's a ruling due out this morning, which could have high impact. Not too sure what time that is. And then there's a German economic sentiment, which doesn't make massive movement, but can give 20 or 15, 20 pip movements normally at 10 o'clock. So there is a potential for that. That will affect the euro-dollar. Okay, let's go and look at the pound. The pound does have news out this morning. We've got the CPI, the inflation rate, coming out this morning at 9:30. So that could certainly provide some volatility. At the moment, the pound has been pushing up again, holding up a little bit better than the euro. I mean, yesterday we ended up yet another up day. So we've been pushing up reasonably well here. I was hoping that we'd have cleared the weekly pivot out of the way yesterday, but it never wasn't to be. At the moment, though, it's again failed making a new high. Well, sorry, it did make a slightly new high here. Got the daily pivot below, so a reasonable chance of that being hit. But thereafter, if it breaks through, well, the S1, maybe yesterday's lows, and even the weekly pivot at some point. But maybe it's starting to become a bigger ask the further away it is, of course. At the moment, though, just seeing an air kiss off this hourly 21, which we're just waiting to see if we get any action through that to break down towards the pivot. Breaks the highs, well, certainly the daily R1, maybe even the R2 today, because the pivot's quite tight in terms of where it may push to. It's just come back to the dailies. And looking at the monthly pivot, it's not that far away, the R1. I mean, it's quite in its scope to push up towards that monthly R1 in terms of range today, if we do see any significant push to the upside there. The inflation rate will probably guide us the best later. Okay, that's the pound. Quickly onto the yen. Yen is just chopping. There's not a lot I can do with this. You'd see it from a pound's point of view, see it pound an hour point of view, see it from a 4-hourly point of view. There's little to speak about at the moment. It's a bit range bound over the last few days. I've drawn previous channels on or trend lines on there, well, just to expand those out really, because we're not really going much out of those. If it does start breaking, I'd rather it break to the upside, purely because it generally gives us some of the better moves. Having said that, look at the one on the left hand side here. It's had a decent move, or strengthening move before, but that was through the Asian session. Okay, so very choppy. The choppiness continues on the dollar yen. Finally, the Aussie dollar, again, one that sort of made the highs yesterday, but couldn't hold on to them, and it's already sold off quite significantly. And looking down to the hourlies, we're already below the daily pivot. S1 looks like the next possibility. Towards yesterday's lows, and back. Perhaps it may maybe even test that weekly pivot again. If it does turn around and breaks, well, then I'm starting to look back into the R1 and to the prior highs there. Possibly could come back up to that monthly pivot if it really gets a wiggle on. But at the moment, a lot of these markets, there really is. If I flick through these really quickly, he's certainly looking at yen as a sideways chop. Cable's probably a lot best in terms of direction wise, but the euro again in very much a sideways looking chop over the last few days. Okay, that's it for me. Have a great one. Bye for now.